Today is November 5th, 2021, and it's day 4 of our Kathina ceremonies. Very happy to be hosting Ajahn Amaro, abbot of Amaravati Buddhist Monastery in the UK. We last had him 3 years ago, and it's quite wonderful to meet up with somebody, especially a senior teacher, after a longer period of time. So 3 years. Sometimes you haven't seen somebody for a long time. You might meet up with them 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 9 years, 10 years later. And as we live our lives, we're always developing, changing, aging, and day by day it can be imperceptible, but when you meet up with somebody after a few years, you say, oh yeah, they're the same person, but they're different. So it's quite wonderful to actually meet up with Ajahn Amaro again and just see the kind of refinement or the development of, you can't really put it into words, but say there's a lot of gratitude in terms of, wow, okay, this is the result of practice. It's also Longpo Liam's 80th birthday tomorrow, so I've been thinking about that, recollecting that with gratitude. Longpo Viradamo, somebody asked him one time, how do I develop gratitude? And he said, yeah, I have a lot of gratitude. I said, well, how do you develop that? Longpo, how do you develop gratitude? How do you train yourself in that? And he said, well, because the practice worked for me, I'm grateful. If it didn't work for me, I wouldn't be grateful. So if the practice is working for you, it's only natural that you'll be grateful, that you'll feel gratitude for that. So rather than developing gratitude, we see what's working for us. Can we focus on that or make much of that? And looking at what we have rather than what we don't have. If we just look at what we don't have, then it's going to be difficult to develop gratitude. But if we look at what we have, what we've been gifted with, what we've been given with this human rebirth and the ability to come into contact with the Dhamma, with Kalyana Mitta, with good friends, good spiritual friends. So we look at what we have. But so often we look at what we don't have yet. Well, I'm not enlightened. I'm not a Sotapanna, and I don't have peace. I don't have well-being, and just have a lot of greed, hatred, and delusion. And but we try to look at the good things that we have, because we all have good things. Everybody here has something good they can think of and be grateful about. So in terms of Kathina, there's much that could be spoken of, that in terms of coming together and making it work, there's trying to adapt in terms of just the present time in history, just trying to adapt to things and trying to be open and trying to just move forward, make our way forward, slowly, cautiously, carefully. And we keep moving forward in time. We don't really know what's going to happen next, but we just adapt and be open and learn and make it work. This is one thing I've been thinking about, the quality of Lokavidū of the Buddha, how we chant in the chanting to Buddha Dhamma Sangha, the Lokavidū, the quality of the Buddha as Lokavidū, it's knower of the worlds. So as bhikkhus, we really get in touch with that. We really get to contact that quality of Lokavidū, the knower of the worlds, so that we learn how to listen to people. So when somebody talks to us, we open ourselves to them and we listen to them and we know their world. We know their world. So we're a knower of the worlds. And when we talk to them, we might develop empathy for people, whatever their views might be, whatever their ideas might be, develop empathy or try to just be open to see, oh, where are they coming from? Where is this other human being coming from? Where is this person coming from? And we don't need to be monastics, though, to develop that quality. We can be open for other people. So if we're open to different perspectives, different points of view, then we're Lokavidū. But if we just have our thing that we're trying to put on people, then that's not Lokavidū. That's, I don't know what the word in Pali would be. That's that's just Loka. That's just Loka. As a Longpo Cha would say, long arom, long log. Like you if you're like lost in the, or tied to the moods, then you're tied to the world. So, but instead we can actually open ourselves up and be more like Lokavidū, have that Buddha quality of actually being open to others and seeing where other people are coming from. When we do that, it's quite amazing sometimes the things we discover, because when we learn how to listen, then we're not actually in ourselves, we're actually being present for somebody else, and we actually might make some discoveries, we might learn some interesting new bits of knowledge, and it can be quite beneficial. So that's what we're doing with this Kathina ceremony, as the lay people come together, then offering Kathina cloth, and opening oneself to that trust in the Sangha. When one is open to that trust in the Sangha, that's saddha, and also taking the 5 precepts. That's also something that comes from saddha. They say saddha, sila saddha sampanno. The sila is perfected by faith. So we have that confidence to give it some time to see if it works. Now, this is an issue, though. This is an issue. This is why perhaps there's not more people keeping precepts or more people keeping sila in the world, is it actually takes time. So normally we want things quick, we want things instantaneously, but with sila, to actually start to get the results of it takes some time. That's why it's perfected by faith, because we actually have that confidence, or that faith that it's going to work for us, but it does take some time. Sila Samadhi Panya. Now, there is also an idea, talking with a couple guys who were visiting from Dharma Realm Buddhist University last night, and they were asking a bit about meditation, and one of them was like, how do I stop thinking? And well, it's not about stopping thought. It's not about stopping thought. I was trying to think of actually if there's even a single place where the Buddha talks about that you should stop thinking. I don't know, is there? He says you should have, maybe don't get too lost in your thoughts, but I don't know if he says stop. He says right thought. He says right thought in the Noble Eightfold Path.
Also, maybe the thoughts fall away, but it's not.
Like it settles.
Yeah, it settles, as opposed to, I gotta stop it.
I gotta stop my thinking.
Sutta of removal of distracted thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
19.
Yeah.
Vitaka Santana Sutta.
Vitaka Santana Sutta, the removal of distracting thoughts. But even there, it's like you're replacing one object with another, or you're trying to make it wholesome.
And then you can actually think what you want to think.
Think what you want to think, rather than just all that crazy stuff. Yes, that one, I think it's the story of Ajahn Tongrat. Like, what's the difference between being unenlightened and enlightened? And he said, well, my mind does what I want it now. Mind does what I want it to now. It works for me, I don't work for it. It actually brings some benefit. So there's also that idea of bringing benefit. Like, how do we know if the practice is working? People will ask, well, how do I know? I want to do it right. I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. How do I know the practice is working? Well, one thing we can think is it bringing benefit? Is it creating benefit? That's also, you could think of that as creating blessings. is our practice actually creating benefit for ourselves and others? And that's not just through the meditation practice, but it's through the looking after the monastery, helping out, the selfless service, washing the dishes. These are all things that bring benefit. Yeah. Offering katina cloth. These are all things that bring benefit. These are all things that are very, very useful. So is it useful? Does it bring benefit? Are we grateful? All these things we can recollect as to, is this actually working? Is this actually working out? And if it's not bringing benefit, or we're not grateful, then how can we shift the focus so that the mind becomes more wholesome? In terms of coming back to that question of trying to stop thought, when the Buddha talks about sila samadhi panya, then there's also Longpo Pasano also alluding to this or talking about this in many Dhamma talks in the past few years, is that this idea that when I get my meditation or when I get my concentration, then I'll finally be happy, I'll finally be at ease. And yet, that's not from the suttas, that's not from the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha's teaching is sukha followed by samadhi. The happy mind is easily concentrated. Why is that? Why is that? It's worth considering, worth thinking about. Why is it that the happy mind is easily concentrated? So it's not about getting my concentration and then I'll be happy, but it's getting my happiness and then I'll be concentrated. Getting my happiness first, and then the samadhi is a natural progression from that. And so why is that? If you think about, everybody here can try to think about a time in their life. It could have been, if you're a long-term practitioner, it could have been a particularly memorable meditation experience of happiness. Or it could be a memory of being a child and being held by your mother. But any time that you felt totally content, totally happy, however briefly, so that feeling of being totally content, totally happy, and then the mind doesn't seek anything. The mind's happy. It's got contentment. It's got fulfillment in that moment. So it's not seeking. So when the mind isn't seeking, then it can settle. It can settle quite naturally. So that's how sukha leads to samadhi. This is a very, very important point. So when we do things, whether we do service or give offerings, give katina offerings, we give it for the sake of our own happiness. And we give it for the sake of our own happiness, leading to samadhi, leading to concentration, leading to panya, and then it goes around in a circle like that. And we might think, well, giving things up, how could that make me happy? You think of the story of Anathapindika and the one who offered the monastery, Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park, and he offers this monastery to the Sangha and becomes he's so generous that eventually he runs out of money from supporting the Sangha. He actually runs out of money. But he's so happy to do it. And this is just really amazing. You would think if somebody ran out of money, they wouldn't be happy. But he runs out of money and he's just so happy about it. Yeah. It's kind of counterintuitive. But that's how boon works. Boon is the happiness, punya in Pali. In Thai, it's boon. In English, we don't really have a translation. We say merit. And merit is kind of, I guess it's okay, but it's not really a great translation for boon or punya. So I can see why in Thai they don't even translate it. It's just boon. So trying to think of other translations for punya, like maybe fundamental happiness, fundamental goodness. Yeah, it's something very fundamental, something very important for our lives. So we tum boon. We actually create that fundamental goodness by dana, by giving offerings and so on. So So yeah, I'll just leave it there. Those are a few things that are coming up in terms of recollecting this Kathina offering, but I like to express anumodana and gratitude to everybody here. It's quite wonderful to see people come together with this in this kind of generosity and goodness and support. So sadhu.